like to call this meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic that stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in a moment of silent reflection for the brave men and women of our armed forces, and also those that we've lost in our community. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Here.
Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Dr. Rothchild? Here. Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to take from the table resolution number 158 of 2022.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second to take from the table resolution number 158 of 2022. This piece of legislation is being taken from the table and placed in seventh order for a final vote. It is a liquor license transfer for Carmela's Deli. On the question? None heard. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved. Dispense with the reading of the minutes, please.
Third order, 3A, correspondence received November 30th, 2022 from OECD regarding code enforcement report for City Council. 3B, payroll preparation tax collection update dated December 1st, 2022 as provided by the City Business Administration.
Are there any comments on any of the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time? Okay. Fifth order, motions?
Fourth order.
Oh, I'm sorry, citizen participation. I'm jumping the gun here. I apologize. Fourth order. I thought we were moving it up here a little bit. First on the list, Joan Hodowanitz.
Joan Hodowanitz, Scranton. I'm confused. I saw in the paper this morning that one of the applicants for city council seat dropped out. Would you please tell me what would disqualify an applicant? Property taxes not paid, fees not paid? You know, do felonies disqualify them? What is the story? You know, it's a little confusing.
I think the individual decided to withdraw.
I know the individual decided to withdraw. What I'm asking you is, would a felony conviction disqualify someone from sitting on city council?
There's been a previous court case that did in fact show that a felony would disqualify you from serving an elected office.
Okay, even though it's an appointment, this is an elected office. So did you vet all the candidates?
We did not vet all the candidates. And I made a point 2 years ago and asked the administration, do we do background checks for felonies? For any position within the city hall. And I posed that question in here, followed up with a couple emails, took a couple months to get an answer. The answer I got was from the Labor Council was, well, we kind of follow what the state does. So I never got a clear answer. And then I said, you know, well, maybe, because I was asking about having an employee handbook, maybe that would put into that. And that was 2 years ago, and I keep hearing they're still working on it.
Well, I think some things ought to be easy to check, like do they have delinquent taxes, delinquent fees? Surely that would be, you know, not difficult to check.
That's currently part of the vetting process.
Yeah.
So that occurs.
Criminal background check?
Well,
I don't
I'm
know.
making a motion in fifth order to include that.
Okay, because I
Moving
think
forward.
it's a little bit embarrassing to the city, you know, for the sake of argument, what if somebody did get appointed to city council and it turns out that they have a quote-unquote record? I just think, you know, that there should be a protocol for appointments, especially to something like city council. I know that when I went on the ethics board, I don't think anybody checked up on me. As far as you know, I could be a godless Putin lover, you know. So anyway, I just think you need a protocol, okay? Any movement on the union contracts?
Well, the last I heard, we heard it from the police chief that they're going to arbitration. I heard
What
on this-
about firefighters?
Well, I'm going to answer that one too for you. I heard weeks ago that they were going to arbitration, not officially through an email or anything, but on the 10th of December.
Okay. How about the 2020 audit? Maybe that is going to be,
We got something. We got that for you too tonight. So we did receive an email on the 22nd. I'll let Mr. Schuster bring you up to speed with that.
okay. And I checked the city's website, and there's been a little bit of progress. They posted 5 of the 2022 controllers reports, but other than that, we still don't have all the audits posted. We don't have the DPW contract that was approved in September posted. So there's a lot of financial documents that need to get posted to the website. Saw that you have in third order update on the payroll preparation tax, and I see that it's still limping along. Something like 22% of the accounts have paid taxes. Hopefully that'll improve in the new year. And on the Berry Ice at NAOG All-Inclusive Playground Agreement, quote, additional funding will be provided by Scranton Municipal Recreation Authority. I'm curious, how much additional funding and where does the authority get its money? Okay.
Good question.
Next, the Lackawanna Avenue renovation grant, quote, a waiver of match was applied for and the city will seek other funding opportunities for complete project, unquote. How much funding and what's the source of the money? I'd like to know that. And the grant reimbursement for the Ash Street Bridge, quote, the city has been selected to receive $1 million with a match of $643,800. We need to know the source of that match, where that's coming from. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The source of the general fund, that was attached to the back of it, to the general fund.
Okay.
Next on the list, Mr. Lee Morgan.
Good evening, Council. Lee Morgan. The first thing I have here tonight is that Bob Wallace is going to have his dinner again this year at St. Pat's on Christmas Day, so we hope that everyone attends and just enjoys the feast and has a good day and makes some new friends, and Merry Christmas. Now, the first thing I have is, you know, when I leave these meetings, I go home and I watch them. And, you know, Councilman Rothchild asked about people making comments about what's going on with the school district. And I'd just like to say that the most important thing about a city is its schools. And I think the most important thing is that this council sends a very strong message, and the mayor, even though it may not happen, that we aren't going to close any more schools. Somebody's got to stand up to the governor in Harrisburg and do something for the residents and the children in this city who deserve to be educated in Scranton's public school system in neighborhood schools. And I think that every councilman and the mayor shouldn't have to be told that because they should know that already. I'm just amazed at where our city really is, the way the votes are done here, the way our government functions. You know, I brought something with me today, just a document. Your lawyer knows what this is. It's a transcript. I really think you need to do something with your license and inspections department because it's being used as a hammer against citizens. Now, I'm not concerned about this because I know where the courthouse is and I can walk down there. And I'm not concerned about your solicitors. I've never lost one thing that I've done yet. The biggest mistake I've ever done is that once I hired an attorney, and I know where I am, and I think the city itself is in very deep hot water, boiling hot water. And you know the troubling thing that I find is that Ron Ellman, somebody singled him out from licensing and inspections over a quality of life thing. It's a disgrace the way this city government operates and that we have a council and a mayor who condones it and allows it to continue. That's not the way America was or should be. There's a constitution in this country. People have rights. They don't know how to exercise those rights. They don't know how to look at the Constitution and interpret what it says. They don't know how to read case law. They don't know how to pick up a law book and figure out where to take themselves and how to proceed forward. I do. And I'm really ashamed of this council and this mayor and our form of government. Now, I'm going to wait until January, and then I'm going to send correspondence to every United States senator and every congressman, every state representative, and every state senator. And I'm going to request that they come to Scranton and they look at every penny that's gone through this city for the last 50 years in grant money and borrowing. We just saw a presentation here about the parking authority. We should have sold those buildings off. The people in this city don't own, the people in this city don't own anything. They just have an ocean of debt. And we're talking about creating a stormwater authority. Is somebody out of their mind? We all know what the plan was for the Scranton Sewer Authority. We were going to build 3 retention ponds, and we were going to collect all the stormwater, and we were going to pass it through when the sewer authority wasn't at peak capacity. You know, somebody has to start thinking about what kind of city we're going to leave for the children that are going to inherit this cesspool, because that's what it is. We've abandoned the children in the Scranton School District, abandoned them. They aren't even really being educated, and I mean that wholeheartedly. I mean, take a look at the test scores. See exactly what we're doing to our children in this community. Not one of you should be proud about it. Not one. We've got major problems here, and the major problem we have is a mayor and a council and a school board that doesn't understand one thing. They're servants, and we're not your serfs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Ellman.
Hello, Council. In last Thursday's paper, December 1st, the editor once again shares readers with the half-truths and fact and misinformation. They seemed awful good at doing that. What I was getting to, he mentions a half-dozen cities in Pennsylvania that have higher salaries and benefits and so on, but they don't mention our outrageous taxes being allowed by the bunch of phony nonprofits hiding behind the Pure Charity Act. They have destroyed our tax base here. I listened just now to Lee. My problem with Mr. Orlowski's office is purely a vindictive thing. You can't imagine what I've gone through with this one man giving me a ticket for something that happened more than 50 feet up the street at another house. Then he changed the ticket, then he changed back to the first ticket. I hope the mayor would come and listen to this hearing sometime and hear what people say in here. You know, when you guys ran for office and got up there, I mentioned people that have been coming in here 10, 20 years. You never had any interest to come to a council meeting. Now it's the same thing all over again. No interest. What was it, 4 people? Never been to a council meeting in their life, but they want to sit up there in one of those seats and dictate policy for the rest of us. We already have a mayor completely out of tune with the people of this city. In the paper, the 30th, was a short article from the University of Scranton. They stated that the regional people living in poverty in Scranton remains disproportionately higher compared to the state average. But see, we got more poor people because why? Last year when I collected some names and talked to so many people, I told you that people told me they don't flush the toilet but once a day. They don't use their gas and hot water and so forth. They're not just one, there's people out there that are suffering, trying to hold on to their property. And we got a mayor that's just completely out of touch with these people, with all the people of this city. It's of great sadness to hear stories. 2 weeks ago at Sheets, a former teacher came over to me when I was getting gas, said she retired. She didn't renew her contract. She said, I'm making about $10,000 less at a new job and I'm much happier. She said that the children have no education and they're in a class, they can't speak English, that they don't want to learn. And here we are paying $15,000 a student for people like that. I don't see why the government, let Biden pay for these people and give them a better education than sit in class all day long. The schools have become nothing more than a babysitter. Yeah, go talk to the teachers. Nothing but a babysitter. We buy them. We give most of these people food stamps to feed them. Then we have to give them breakfast and lunch when they get to school. This is senseless what's going on around here. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak?
Tom Coyne, Manuka. First of all, a question was brought before this body about what would preclude someone from being on a council seat. Felonies in the state of Pennsylvania are not directly something that precludes someone from holding an office. Usually on these seats up here, which I'm surprised is not aware, is ethics violation that violate fiduciary rights. Also, trusts. For an example, someone who wanted to take a position on this council but was not allowed to because of insurance fraud. Fraud is one of the felony cases that bars you from holding public office. So there are specific felonies out there that bar you from holding office, and most of them are dealt with distrust and dishonesty. Moving on from that, I listened to the interviews from all the candidates. Mr. King, you asked about the budget process, about approving and amending the budget. Most of the people here do not know the regulations on the budget process. It's hard for people to give input on a process that really they don't fully understand. And it's even harder for anyone to give a competent explanation of a budget process at a point where contracts that are necessary for the budget itself are never in place when the budget comes around. You're always running after fictitious numbers, and rather than going on the side of caution of cutting down and cutting the budget to make sure you have enough, it seems we ignore that and we assume that we're not going to have to pay more money. Part of the budget process is the lack of review, job titles, and qualifications. We say that the employees here in the city, that this town needs to give higher money to the political appointed management to attract those qualified people. It seems then by the statement that we must have unqualified people who would not survive in any other town because they satisfy for the rate of pay that's here. If the rate of pay in Scranton is not high enough to attract qualified people, then everyone who's saying that has just admitted that they are being paid for incompetence. We have asked for job titles, we've asked for job description, we've asked for reviews of employees. All of that is not done, because to do that would put responsibility and oversight, which it seems no one wants. Are we looking for lucrative contracts that we hand out? Does anyone here know, out of all of the contracts handed out here, or can we get the information of how much taxes they have paid to the city of Scranton? Because if they are contracted to work in the city of Scranton, they are bound to pay Scranton wage tax for working outside of the city. A number of them, including the IT departments that were hired, gave a list of employees who were working for the city of Scranton. It should be easy enough to find out whether or not they paid that percentage of taxes. If we're paying companies from outside of the city to run city business because our city population is too stupid to be able to handle its own jobs, then maybe we also need to make sure that those lucrative contracts that go outside the city are indeed paying their taxes back for that money they receive.
I did pose that question during the budget process.
Mr. Schuster, you mentioned about what you love. We asked about what we love about the city. I love to leave the city of Scranton. As a young adult, Scranton is a great place up till you're about 12 years old. It's good to return to die. Scranton has defaulted on the majority of Scrantonians and continues to do so, like with the swimming pool. 5 to 10 years in the future, it's hard to do when the city of Scranton, Center City gets all the money, while the outskirts of it get patchwork fixes. It is true that the neighborhoods have been neglected, and it's kind of a sad thing that Center City gets the limelight where the rest get the eggs. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak?
Good evening, Marie Schumacher, resident and taxpayer. I have a little quiz tonight. I'd like to start out with what what was the result of the leachate analysis?
We didn't get an answer on that one.
For how long?
I would say 3 weeks.
If you can't get something, I don't know. Okay. 6 months ago, we hired a lobbyist, and we were supposed to get reports of what was being requested, so we could see whether or not we were satisfied. We have not had one. So we're giving somebody $4,000 a month for 2 years, for what?
We can request that update. I'd like to see that too. We can request that update from them. I'd like to see that as well.
Well, we shouldn't have to, but I appreciate that. The NAOG pool area study, is the thing on tonight's agenda, does that cover the entire NAOG Park, or is it just the one section?
It's just the one section.
So this study that's going to provide us perhaps a pool at NAOG has not even been asked RFP'd yet. Why? Okay. Quite a while back, council passed a LERTA program. Is it a success or a failure?
We haven't received data on that. We were told initially that it was.
Mike.
Go ahead.
Your microphone.
I think COVID affected it. We didn't receive a lot of data on it. We were told that it was going to work, but it's only for remodeling.
Oh, I understand, it's for improvements only. I understand
Right.
the bill.
So-
I just want to know whether the program is,
We'll get an update for that for you too.
okay, what was the metric for judging whether or not that's a success or a failure?
I'm not sure how they set that up.
I think we're learning something here. We need to have some metrics so we can judge whether or not we're getting our nickel's worth. Okay. Now, how much is in escrow at the sewer authority for us to get?
I'm not sure of that number. I believe Mr. Dunn
Came
will
up
get-
last week. Nobody went and found that out? I mean, come on, this,
These questions you can also pose to the various departments in the city, because that's what we have to do with some of them. I appreciate your questions, but some of them questions you can actually ask yourself. I know it's hard to get responses, but we do try to get the information for you. But we wait on it just like you. I know it's frustrating.
there's got to
and
be,
you're very frustrated.
you got to get your heads together and decide how you can do it. Do you have to take them to court to get an answer to your questions? Or do you have to do right to knows as well? Maybe five days if you're lucky. Okay. Is there anybody on there who would be willing to make a motion to return Spruce Street to Spruce Street? Okay. Now, we've been complaining a lot about the nonprofits and the ratio of non-exempt properties, and that people are actually going to have the appeal hearing and getting their assessment reduced. Has this council, as a taxing body, have they sent anybody to those meetings to make a...
We do not. The city does that.
You do,
They're legal-
no, you do
they're
have the
legal
right,
department.
as a taxing department, you, as a taxing authority, you have the ability to send someone. I think the one on school board has it too. So my time is up.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak?
Good evening, Norma Jeffries, Scranton resident. A couple things. I came in late for the caucus, but I have to thank Dr. Rothchild for bringing up about the safety in the garages. I couldn't hear all of what the gentleman was saying, but that was and is and still remains a concern about the safety in the parking garages. I was downtown Friday night for the Scranton Festival down at Courthouse Square, but thank God I was able to find a parking spot on the street. But had I not been able to find a parking spot on the street, I would not have felt comfortable going into one of the garages. So I'm not sure what the gentleman said about the safety, and one of the things was that I hate to call them street people, but the homeless people there, and I could pick up a little bit of what he was saying, but I'll have to wait till I get home, I guess, to hear that. But thank you, Dr. Rothchild, for bringing that question up, because that was a concern of mine, and I think I had sent it to Kyle Donahue, some of the questions that I had from before. So I thank you for that. My second thing that I wanted to address was, there's things in life that go on, and when it's meant to be bad, and it can turn out for good. And I think the issue with Bobby, the other candidate, that was up for council, and he's no longer being considered, or he withdrew. And the good that can come out of that is, like Joan had mentioned, is a background check done for every person that's on the council. I'm on 2 different boards, and as far as I know, no background check was done on me. And I think in order to do a background check, you have to sign something, and I don't recall signing anything. So like Joan said, we could be heaven only knows what, and we're on a board. So what's the difference between doing a background check on certain positions in the city, appointments, and when we go to our boards, we are appointed. So that's something good that could come out of something that unfortunate situation. So the other question that Joan raised, and Mr. Schuster, maybe you're going to address this, about where does the money come from for the park? Or will you address that, or I can address it?
You might have a little bit more information tonight, so if you'd like to.
Okay. So as a member of the Scranton Municipal Recreation Authority, when the question came up about where does the money come from, we've been raising money for that park for about 4 years, 3 years at least, because I've been on the board for 3 years. The money comes from us having craft fairs. We have a craft fair at least twice a year. We try to do it in the spring and the fall. We charge those people that come to the craft fairs per table. They pay for the table. That's all we charge them for. They bring their goods, and all the profits they make, that's theirs. So the money that we get from those tables is what we put aside for the playground. We also have basket raffles. And I love basket raffles, and there's a lot of people out there that love basket raffles. So we do very well with the basket raffles. We also have a race that we have, and you have to register for the race, and the funds from that race also go. So there's a lot, and the light show. There's a lot that goes on at the park. Anything that has money to do with it, it's for the park. And it's been about at least 3.5, 4 years that we've been raising money for the park. So, I think we're finally getting to the point that we can reach out and have somebody now come and say to us, this is what we can plan, and this is what is planned for the park. So I was glad to see it on the agenda for tonight, and hope that it won't be long before we have that and we're calling it an all-inclusive playground, so that those children and that may need some assistance, or with to get on the swing, on a slide or something, and those kinds of activities will be there. Sensory activities for children. So there's a lot that has been thought about to go into that park. So I wanted to address that, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Gattens did inform me about that, and he's been telling me about it for quite some time. I didn't have the answer right off the top of my head, but it's been something he's been telling me for a while, so very good job with that. They just put a similar park in Kirby Park in Wilkes-Barre.
Yes, I saw that one. I was tempted to go down and take a look at it just to see. But that's the answer.
Ms. Jeffries, I was also going to respond to that in fifth order because I remember participating in the 5K before.
Yes, the 5K.
And, yeah, so the various fundraisers that you've been using
Yeah. So there's lots of activity goes on at the park to raise money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak?
Doris Kolotsky, resident of Scranton. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but then when I heard some of the things, I decided to. Okay, first of all, I wanted to find out, like the empty lots that were Mercy Hospital and Commonwealth, where they tore them down like all on Monroe Avenue. Do they pay taxes on those empty lots since there's nothing on them? That's one question. You can answer at the end. Okay, I also wanted to address, I thought they were going to pick the new council person tonight. Will that happen tonight? Okay, all right, so then the only other thing I wanted to do was back up Norma. I'm a volunteer at the park, and we have been working on this butterfly playground for quite a few years now. We had a 5K race. And what she said about the craft shows. They also had a book fair that Norma ran, and that's where all the money goes. And anybody that wants to know where money goes from the rec board only has to kind of attend the Thursday meetings. They're open to the public. They start at 6 o'clock, and they're the first Thursday of every month. And the treasurer's there, and the solicitor's there. And you can hear when they vote on where the money is going to go and what they need to spend it on and why they need to spend it on that. I also want to add that because I know there are controversies with the people, the board, I live by the park, and I've lived by the park since 1968 as a grown-up homeowner. I've lived by it many years from the time I was born. But I walked my children up the park. I had my kids at the park every single day, and it's very, very close to my heart. And most of the people that volunteer up there, it's close to their hearts. They care about the park. It's free labor for the city. So I don't know why anybody would not want volunteers up there and volunteers doing things for the park. The city's not hiring people to come up and pull weeds. Park volunteers are pulling weeds. Linda and her Wednesday weeders. Bob Shoemaker put in a beautiful butterfly garden. They built a beautiful extension. Sam and Gerald Smurl, I believe, and the others, they built a beautiful extension onto the old snack bar for the community room. We just had a concert in there Sunday and a basket raffle, and the concert was beautiful. It was all free to the public, if they wanted to give a donation, fine. And it was from 2 to 4, and it was very enjoyable. And these are all the things the board is doing at the park. And I just want to say, since this board, this present board, and going back, some people have left it like Bob and a few others, but this board has cleaned up that park so much. Before that board, I would walk my kids and my dogs up there, and there were needles, there were used condoms right around the pool areas. You don't see that anymore. People are coming back to the park. They're loving the park. There's all ages walking up there, riding bikes up there. It's just such a pleasure to go there. So I'm really hoping that, I know that there's always friction between some politicians and the people at the board, and I don't agree with everything, but if I'm not willing to do it myself, I don't think I should complain about it if I don't think it's right. I'm hoping that anybody whose terms are coming due, I'm hoping they get reappointed to the board, no matter how people have personal feelings on them or anything, because this board works their tail off. I mean, and when a light goes out at the light show, you pick up the phone, you call Gatton's, and him and his people are up there putting it in the middle of the light show together. Now, I know there's a new representative for the park, Marissa, and I met her, I spoke to her. I hope that she's very successful. I'm not against her one bit. But the first thing she said to me is, I have a degree, and I don't like the benches, and I'm going to pull out all the benches we just put in. Well, that's a waste of money, and volunteers put those benches in. It didn't cost the city a penny to put those benches in, and we paid for those benches because I bought memorial benches for my husband, and many people bought memorial benches up there. And as far as I know, nobody else wants those memorial benches pulled out because we picked our spots that were in our hearts. I'm around the pool for a reason. Somebody else has a bench that looks out of place because it's facing the hospital, but their child passed away in that room and they wanted their bench there. I mean, so to just adamantly come in and say, I'm going to take out the benches because I don't like the way they look and the way they're placed, I'm just worried about that, and I don't think the board is really the place. I mean, you guys are the place, the council. I'm not sure how that works. But I just wanted to say, as a person that goes to the park at least twice a day, almost every day, even when it's raining, I'm hoping you keep this board intact because they work so hard and they've really done a bang-up job. You're welcome.
Anybody else like to speak?
Good evening, Council. Dave Dobson, resident, taxpayer. Yeah, that's kind of amazing. If I were on that park board, I would get their heads together and just tell that person, like, stop making uninformed comments. If somebody donates something, and don't make assumptions. Last week I was on it, and there's more in the papers and on the news about the FTX failure of cryptocurrency. And it came to my attention also a couple of months ago that this is being invested in by pension plans. And they get a basket of investments, and some of them are aggressive and some of them are safe. And I would strongly recommend that at least by the first of the year, when you guys get started up, see if you could get the pension boards in here and see where they're at and what kind of investments are being made. Because on the article on Scranton losing investment money here, and there has been some money lost, we're going to have to jack up our minimum monthly obligation in the future. So that means, once again, another tax increase, and hopefully it won't be $26 million down the gold-plated John somewhere, because we can't afford it. It's not your fault. But I really didn't ever, and I also read Krugman in the, he's a New York Times economist, and he clearly stated that cryptocurrency, he couldn't figure it out if he, walked on water. So it's something that's really concerning. And the lead shake came up tonight. Under no circumstances should any leachate be released into the Naog stream. None whatsoever. They can always feel free to pay to have it shipped to the sewer plant and then pay their fees. And if that bothers them so much, raised their rates for the New York trash and New Jersey trash that flows in here. They have 44 years or something like that. It really drives me crazy when every time we have something that somebody wants, they have to have it, and we have to give it up without a fight. It's egregious enough. Almost anybody that I see moves into town from New Jersey or New York or something, and they rent a home in the neighborhood. They have 5 bags of trash at the end of every week with 3 or 4 people in the house. You know, and you know they're not recycling, they're not doing anything. It's just business as usual. So it's really a shame, but no leachate into the Naog Gorge. And that flows right through Naog Park and down along into the Lackawanna River. And, you know, it's just entirely wrong. Entirely wrong. So anything we can do to approach the DEP and tell them no thanks, and please don't okay it just like you okayed the 50-year plan to dump garbage here. It's atrocious, and basically, I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired of giving away everything just because somebody else wants it and they can turn a fancy buck and get rich and laugh at us peons. Thank you. Have a good night.
Hello, Council. I'm Rick Little from Scranton. I got just a few things here. As you know, I tried to get on the board of the Scranton Housing Authority. My problems go back many years. I'd like to thank Mr. Schuster for calling Carl and Knott and trying to figure out what's going on. But they just keep switching people. And I don't know how I got shut out of being on the Scranton Housing Board, but they got a new manager, and that's what they do. They move people around, and without getting into the details, it's like they won't address the things I'm talking to them about. I'm just trying to live in this city. I came here in 2005, and basically, it's just my opinion, but I'm living in a Democrat vote harvesting farm. Most of the people are old people down here, and everywhere I go to the Department of Aging. They're like, you know, we're trying to help, but they aren't helping at all. And it's involved with the courts, it's involved with the legal things, the Lackawanna pro bono, which is very underfunded from what I see, and especially Northeast Penn Legal, but they're evicting people willy-nilly, and they've evicted me, and then I just received more eviction papers, and I talked to the manager. That's how they run it. They have a manager, but the manager is like the only person around with a first and a last name, so I tried to work that out by doing a right to know. And they still don't give me any answers. They've hired this law firm, and you know, they're publishing my social security number, and I'm finding things out about how. But I should have found this out years ago. I mean, I started to try to find out about what's going on over there years ago, and. Because as I've said before, it's the same little group of people that have been in there for like 35 years. And it's the same people again. And I've just been trying to find out, how does the city of Scranton decide who gets to run for the board? And, you know, I watched the mayor's television show where she says, you know, get involved in the government, you know, democracy and all that. And I did that. But it turned out to be just nothing. I mean, I put in my application and everything, but, you know, we had the vote a couple weeks ago, and that's it, you know. And now I'm in the same situation. I know what I have to do. That's what the building manager says to me, because it's really run by the maintenance people over there. And I can see exactly how it works. The government of it all works. And, you know, and their big boss is the assistant district attorney of Lackawanna County, and they got Pat O'Malley, the former commissioner, working over there. And then I read in the paper, and I don't know how the paper finds out this stuff, you know, about 3 police officers working over there, and one's going to jail, and all this stuff. I'm doing the right to know. They're not answering me. And, you know, so I had to appeal it, and then they hire a law firm to do the appeal. I mean, this isn't the way government's supposed to work. Why can't people just tell you what's going on? Who's in charge, you know, because the maintenance in my building, they all lie all the time. They tell me that's, you know, his name is Chris Meal, or his name is Ryan, and they try to make you out crazy. That's what I see the Department of Aging do. It's always, they have their 501(c), send out people to talk to you and bring you a box of cornflakes and stuff, but my housing is the most important thing, and I'm just trying to stay here living, and I hope people realize that most of the people in downtown Scranton are really old people. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Okay.
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. King?
Excuse me. I'd like to make a motion to nominate a person to fill the position vacated by former Scranton City Councilman Kyle Donahue to serve for the remainder of this year and all of next year, 2023, with said term scheduled to expire at 12 noon on January 1st, 2024.
A motion has been made to fill the position vacated by former Scranton City Councilman Kyle Donahue. Is there a second?
Second.
This motion is to place the nomination on the table. On the question?
On the question, I'd like to say a few words about this nomination. I will be voting for Mr. Smurl. I'd like to thank all those who applied and interviewed for the council vacancy. Your willingness and interest to serve the city of Scranton is truly appreciated, and I am disappointed that Mr. Gowan Collins had to remove his name from consideration. I did feel he was a strong candidate and genuinely interested in serving the city, and I don't think that a history of addiction should preclude someone from being able to serve in office. But with regards to Mr. Smurl, I did like the time that he had spent serving the community and also having a business within the city of Scranton. I did appreciate those things, and I think he'll be a good addition to council, and I look forward to working together with him.
All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Mr. Gerald Smurl to fill the unexpired term of former Scranton City Councilman Kyle Donahue for the remainder of this year and for all of next year, 2023, with said term scheduled to expire at 12 noon on January 1st, 2024.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, I obviously made the motion for Mr. Smurl, and I was very impressed with, his resume. I'm impressed with the fact that he's been a city resident for many, many years, most of his life. He's a city businessman. He owns a number of rental properties. If anyone has the opportunity to travel, I'm trying to think of what's the street there, Prospect Avenue. His home is decorated like you wouldn't believe, and that didn't just happen this year. That's been there for years. He's been doing this, and it's expanded through the years. He brings a lot of joy to a lot of people, creates a lot of traffic in Southside, but so does my buddy Mr. Koken on Music Street, but it's really pretty awesome what both of those individuals do. But Mr. Smurl, is a homeowner, a taxpayer. He's been involved with the rec authority up at the Naog Park. He's done a tremendous amount to volunteer for the city, and I look forward to serving with him on Scranton City Council, and I'm honored to nominate him.
Anyone else?
On the question, I apologize for speaking a bit too early with regards to Mr. Smurl, but as I said, I'm looking very much so forward to working together with him, and I believe he's a great candidate for City Council.
Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
I'd like to congratulate Mr. Gerald Smurl. Welcome into City Council. Mr. Smurl will be sworn in and seated at our next week's Scranton City Council meeting. We look forward to having Mr. Smurl on council in the coming year.
Mr. King, do you have any more motions or comments?
Just a few comments. I know that Mr. Morgan made some comments concerning the Scranton School District, as he often does. As many of you know, I served as superintendent of the Scranton School District for over 6 years. I worked in the Scranton School District for well over 28 years. All of my brothers and sisters attended Scranton schools, all 7 of them, so 8 including me. My 3 daughters all attended Scranton schools. All are doing exceptionally, and I mean exceptionally well. They're going to great schools. I have a junior and senior at Scranton High right now. They've had great teachers. They've had a great education. I see the amount of work that is piled on my daughters and the education that they get and the dedication of their teachers. I realize the value of our schools and our school district. When I was superintendent, we did in fact close several schools, one of which we never really planned to. Unfortunately, we were forced to, but while I was there, we did close John Marshall, Lincoln Jackson Annex, and 2 of the preschools, one at Hilltop and Valley View. However, in closing those schools, we also built a brand new Isaac Tripp Elementary School to house those students on 14 acres in West Scranton, along with adding an addition to John F. Kennedy Elementary School and renovating the other half, thereby basically making it a brand new school. Along with, we tore down Whittier and built a brand new Whittier Elementary School in the same spot, a little bit larger. Unfortunately, just as we were completing that, we had a very serious mold issue at Audubon, which none of us expected to happen, and unfortunately we had to disperse those students at that time to 3 different schools, Prescott, Adams, and Whittier Elementary School. I spoke here publicly. I don't know if Mr. Morgan was here. A number of us have spoken up on behalf of, really wanting to see a true plan for the school district in terms of schools, and it looks like the school district is listening. I don't know if they're listening to me, but they're listening, because it sounds like they're looking at maybe putting the brakes on closing some of these schools, because as the former superintendent, I really do not see where they are going to put children from three more closed elementary schools without adding another elementary center, or I just don't know where you're going to fit them, because I think there may even be more children in the Scranton School District now than when, you know, I left the district back in 2014. So I'm just hoping that they really put some serious thought into it and really focus on enrollment projections for the future, and really try to value what they have in some of the existing schools and the students they serve. In reference to Mr. Ellman, who made some comments, which I didn't really appreciate too much, concerning students who are English language learners. The Scranton School District, we're an urban school district, and we serve students, a large percentage of special needs students. We serve a large population of English language learners. And guess what? That's what makes this city so great. We're diverse. And those students, my wife's a kindergarten teacher. She has 8 to 10 different languages spoken in kindergarten in her classroom. And guess what? Many of the children that she had 12 years ago have graduated and gone on, many of them on to college. They've assimilated. They've come. They want to learn. They want to learn the language. Is it a struggle? Yes. I could not imagine myself going to Kenya or going over to France as a young child and having to learn another language. That is absolutely, it's frightening to think about, and especially for students where English is not the main language in their homes. So fortunately, the younger we get students, the better chance we have of them really learning the language and doing exceptionally well. So we have a responsibility as public educators to ensure that these students are well educated, and we need to provide for them. So, you know, to think that none of us, and I know that some of my colleagues that sit next to me served on the school board, and I know that they value education, they value the neighborhood schools, and they have supported it. So I felt a need to say that. Also, we received some information finally about the street signs. This will make Norma, at least we, I don't know if you're going to be happy with the information, but it's an update, and we got it this afternoon from Larry West. So I'm just going to take a minute if I could read that. So response to City Council request for an update on street signs. The city has been working to replace the street name and others, identifying traffic signs throughout the neighborhoods over the span of the last 3 years. A combination of city workforce crews as well as contracted crews have been addressing the sign replacement with both city money as well as grant money. Phase 1 was 2021. City workforce began replacing street identification as well as other marked traffic, including but not limited to stop, handicap parking, and one-way signs, mainly in the city's Hill section and Pine Brook neighborhoods. The scope of that work was bounded by Poplar Street to Linden Street and Capous Avenue to Arthur Avenue. That work has been completed. The city was also awarded $306,000 from the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development multimodal grant in early 2021 for replacing street signs. In the 2021 budget, the city added a third full-time employee for the traffic team, which has been and continues to be understaffed. Phase 2, 21-22, the city entered into a contract with Minichi Incorporated for $306,000 for sign replacement. The focus was mainly on the city's south side neighborhood. Over 940 signs were replaced on the following streets: Beach, Birch, Breck, Brook, Burke, Campbell, Cherry, Corey, Crown, Duncan, East Elm, East Locust, Fig, Jeanette, Gibbons, Harrison, Hickory, Kane, Maple, McDonough, Meadow, Music, O'Hara, Orchard, Palm, Pear, Prospect, Ripple, South Irving, South Webster, Saginaw, and Sanders. Work has been completed. Currently, the contract has been closed out with the contractor Medici Incorporated, but the city is still working to close out the grant with DCED. City workforce crews replace signs in North Scranton section, specifically bounded on the North Marvin section by Interstate 81 to Theodore Street in North Scranton, and from Pennsylvania Route 11, McDade Expressway, on the west to the Lackawanna River in the plot. The crews will continue to replace the signs west of Main Avenue from Theodore Street to Foster Street in Bull's Head. City crews have replaced over 850 signs, and that work is currently ongoing. Phase 3, 2023. The administration continues to search for grants to offset the cost of sign replacement and is pursuing funding opportunities that will meet the uses and eligibility requirements. As part of the city's 2023 budget, the administration proposed and the city council adopted using $200,000 in Department of Public Works Highways capital expenditures line item for sign work to continue. The city currently uses software called Sign Tracks to maintain a database of the approximate 19,000 signs throughout the city. That software will no longer be supported past December of 2023, and the city will pursue a new agreement with the vendor to support the sign database. In 2023, there will be a DPW floater that will assist the traffic team and add needed bandwidth to accomplish our goals for sign replacement. Replacing street signs throughout the entire city is a priority for the mayor and the administration. We recognize the critical importance of wayfinding signage and will continue to dedicate and secure resources to identify, replace, and maintain our fixed sign infrastructure. Other than that, I do just want to take this opportunity to thank the Municipal Rec Authority and all the volunteers that do a tremendous amount of work at Naog Park. I see it, I don't walk up there as often as I should be. I need to get back up there, but I know the tremendous amount of time that the volunteers do in that park, and it truly has gotten so much better, so much cleaner, and that's as a result of volunteers. So I just hope that our administration and our Parks and Rec Department are willing to work cooperatively with our neighborhood associations, our rec authorities, to ensure that our parks are well taken care of and maintained. Thank you.
Mr. Schuster, do you have any motions?
Just a couple comments. The last one there that Mr. King said when it comes to our Parks and Recs Authority plus our Parks Department, DPW, our neighborhood associations, these can be very symbiotic relationships where, we pool our resources to get things done, and I hope that, like he said, I hope that we're working together and we're not pushing against each other. I could say a lot about the Scranton School District. I've worked with special needs kids in many districts all over Lackawanna and Luzerne County. I have worked in some of the Scranton schools with children with special needs. I was in Audubon when Audubon closed, so I got to see the dispersal of students into other buildings. I am a proponent of smaller schools. I think when we're sitting at 200 to 300 children, I think we're seeing less behavioral issues. We're seeing, better student-to-teacher ratios. At this point in time, I don't have the numbers of the district, so it does seem like they're listening. It does seem like the conversation has started, and I'm going to be paying close attention to that. Mr. King just gave an update on the street signs. We've been asking for that for 2 to 3 months now. So it took some of the efforts of many of us to ask that question, some of the audience members to ask it, but we're starting to get some of these answers back. Today I do have an answer back on the audit. This was something, I got a meeting together with the auditors and members of the city to try to get some meetings going to get council in the loop on this. It hasn't gone as I would like it to have gone. I thought it could have moved along a little bit smoother, but we did get, thank you, Frank, for reaching out. We got a response from the auditors, and the response is, we received the general fund and special cities trial balances on September 29th. Significant errors were noted on the general fund's trial balance, and on October 3rd, we sent it back to the BA's office for corrections, along with a list of the outstanding items. On October 6th, they requested a meeting to get the audit back on track, but they were unable to get it scheduled until October 27th. At that meeting, they were provided with correcting entries for the general fund trial balance, and also on the 27th meeting, they explained to Mr. West that their first opening of the audit schedule would be the week of November 28th. They're going to resume the audit after Thanksgiving, which is now, with the goal of having it completed by mid-January. However, their ability to complete the audit is going to depend on the availability of information. So it seems like the audit should be coming out mid-January, as long as they're getting the auditors are getting the information from the city administration. That is all I have tonight.
Dr. Rothchild, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, I had a few comments tonight. First, I wanted to touch on something that the other council members had mentioned with regards to schools. I spoke about this several weeks back when the plan was initially proposed for school closures and stood against schools being closed, and I'm glad to see that. Looks like they are searching for other solutions, budgetary solutions, so that that doesn't happen, because I also do not want to see larger sized classrooms or teachers being overburdened, and I want students within the city of Scranton to receive the best education possible, and I think we have a lot of work to get there, to be able to provide that. I appreciate all the teachers and the school district for continuing to work toward that goal, but I don't think closing the schools, closing those 3 schools that were proposed would be the answer. And I also, from public comment, I mentioned, and I just want to confirm with Mr. Voldenberg that we will request an update from the lobbying firm that was hired in DC to provide us with some information on what they've done so far.
I will, Dr. Rothchild.
Thank you. And lastly, I also wanted to thank the Recreation Authority Board and all the volunteers at the NAIOG Park, because I know all the incredible work that they've done over the years to keep that park up, and the cleanups that are held throughout the year, and the light show that's going on right now. I've already visited it a couple times, and you can sign up to volunteer, because they need volunteers every night to be able to stand and hand out candy canes, and also receive donations if people have them after they complete driving through the light show. And so I plan on definitely volunteering for that too. And as Ms. Jeffries had mentioned, and I had responded, that for the all-inclusive playground, they have been doing a lot of fundraising over the years. I think the 5K I participated in was just after my, maybe a few months after my daughter was born, so almost two years ago. And I'm really supportive of the all-inclusive playground going into the park, so I'm glad to see that there's more movement, and that tonight we have the legislation to be introduced for the design component of that playground. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll touch a little bit on education. Mr. Morgan kind of stated Mr. Morgan kind of stated that we don't really support public education or care what's happening in the district and the city. I have students in front of me every day. Their needs and interests come first to me. And I know the value of good education, and I provide it the best that I can. So I'm going to leave it at that. Second, an update on the Weston Field pool. So I continue to receive complaints. So the park director, we actually got a correspondence. She kind of heard some of the meeting because she was traveling in her car, I believe. Because the claim was it was only open 4 days in November. So the director pulled up her schedule and said it was open 15 out of 23 days, inclusive of the holiday. But the issue, but I'm also glad to report that she also stated in her email that she's interviewing 2 lifeguards this week. So hire them. For the love of God, just hire them. But the issue also remains that wasn't addressed is, okay, so if the pool's open, these residents who are customers, they're both, right, are coming to the pool, but it's freezing cold. They know there's an issue with the heater, so saying it's open and not being able to swim is really closed if the water's too cold. So, Mr. Voldenberg, follow up on that. See the status of what's going on with the heater, or has it been repaired, or they're working on that? And next, all right, so I would like to make a motion to request that we amend ordinance relative to all appointments, that a criminal background check be completed and certificate of the same accompany all applications moving forward.
Second.
There's a motion and a second on the question.
Just on the question, when you say all applications, so all applications for people that are going to be replaced, like if somebody leaves council, if somebody's getting appointed to a board,
Yes,
or hired.
right, so it's for boards, authorities. Right, there's an ordinance on appointments, and that's inclusive of all of them.
Okay, I'm just looking for clarification. Thanks.
Anyone else? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved. And that is all I have. Thank you.
5B for introduction, a resolution ratifying and approving the city's acceptance and administration of grant funds from the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for up to $1 million to be used for the Larch Street redevelopment Hamidi and Holdings project.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? None heard. All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5C for introduction, a resolution ratifying and approving the execution and submission of the grant reimbursement agreement between the City of Scranton and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Transportation for funds up to $1,120,200 from the Multimodal Transportation Fund grant to be used towards the replacement of the Ash Street Bridge.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? None heard. All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5D for introduction, a resolution ratifying and approving the acceptance of an assignment of contract from the Lackawanna County Commissioners to the City of Scranton for the Multimodal Transportation Fund grant agreement to be used towards Lackawanna Avenue renovations.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? None heard. All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5E for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with Barry Isid and Associates, Inc. to provide professional engineering, design and construction management services for the Naog Park All-Inclusive Playground Project.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? None heard. All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5F for introduction, a resolution ratifying and approving the City of Scranton's acceptance and administration of grant funds from the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for up to $750,000 to be used for the AIM Hire program at Scranton Preparatory School.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5F be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? None heard. All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, so moved.
5G for introduction, a resolution ratifying and approving the City of Scranton's acceptance and administration of grant funds from the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for up to $1 million to be used for the 517 Bogart Project 2A Slocum Hollow.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5G be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? None heard. All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, file the council number 41, 2022, an ordinance amending file the council number 100, 1976, entitled, an ordinance as amended, levying general and special taxes for the fiscal year 1977 by setting the millage for the year 2023, and the same shall remain in full force and effect annually thereafter.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question?
So, on the question, although I voted against the 2023 budget for several reasons, I do understand that a consensus was formed and we, council as a whole, did pass that budget. I will move it forward to seventh order and wait for our fifth member to join to have a further conversation about item 6A moving into final passage.
Mr. President, I believe, I'm not sure that what's listed in here is the adjusted millage after we made the amendments. So I'll vote this forward, but I'm expecting to get the proper millage from the city, obviously by next week, because I think what's listed here has the millage, listed at the 3% increase rather than 2%.
So, Mr. Voldenberg, could we reach out to the administration to make sure that we get the amendments for this piece before final passage?
I will, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, I have zero appetite for this tax increase. I stated it all through the budget process. To me, in my mind, this tax increase funds raises and new positions. But with that said, if this was to fail, then we'd have an unbalanced budget. Do I want to do that to the residents of Scranton? No. But please know, I don't, with reservation, I have to do this. And I'm not happy at all, I'm still not happy at all with the tax increase and what it's being used for. Okay, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6B, reading by title, file the council number 42, 2022, an ordinance amending file the council number 11, 1976, entitled, an ordinance as amended enacting, imposing a tax for general revenue purposes in the amount of 2% on earned income and net profits on persons, individuals, associations, and businesses who are residents of the city of Scranton or non-residents of the city of Scranton for work done, services performed, or business conducted within the city of Scranton, requiring the filing of returns by taxpayers subject to the tax, requiring employers to collect the tax at source, providing for the administration, collection, and enforcement of said tax, and imposing penalties for the violations, by reenacting the imposition of the wage tax at 2 4/10% on earned income for residents and 1% on earned income for non-residents of the city of Scranton for work done, services performed, or business conducted within the city of Scranton for the year 2023, and the same shall remain in full force and effect annually thereafter.
You've heard reading by title of item 6B. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6B pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? None heard. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6C, reading by title, file the council number 43, 2022, an ordinance amending file the council number 6, 1976, entitled, an ordinance as amended imposing a tax for general revenue purposes on the transfer of real property situate within the city of Scranton, prescribing and regulating the method of evidencing the payment of such tax, conferring powers and imposing duties upon certain persons, and providing penalties by imposing the rate of the realty transfer tax at 2 2/10% for calendar year 2023, and the same shall remain in full force and effect annually thereafter.
You've heard reading by title of item 6C. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6C pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question, none heard. All those in favor of signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6D, reading by title, file the council number 44, 2022, an ordinance. An ordinance for the general revenue by imposing a payroll tax on the amount of payroll expense generated as a result of a business conducting business activity within the city, and to be levied at a rate of 0.2787%, requiring registration and payment of the tax as condition to the conducting of such business, providing for the levy and collection of such tax, prescribing such requirements for returns and records, conferring powers and duties upon the tax collector, and imposing penalties for 2023.
You've heard reading by title of item 6D. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6D pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question, none heard. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Finance for adoption, file the council number 39, 2022, authorizing the issuance of a tax and revenue anticipation note, series of 2023, in the principal amount not to exceed $5 million, providing for the dated date, interest rate, maturity date, redemption provisions, payment in place of payment in respect of the note, accepting the proposal attached hereto as Exhibit B from the financial institution named therein for the purchase of the note, naming a sinking fund depositary paying agent, authorizing the proper officers of the city to execute and deliver the note and certain other documents and certificates in connection therewith, authorizing and directing the preparation, certification, and filing of the necessary documents with the Department of Community and Economic Development of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, setting forth a form of the note.
What is the recommendation of the chairman for the Committee on Finance?
As the chairperson for the Committee on Finance, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question, none heard. Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, file the council number 40, 2022, authorizing the establishment of a other post-employment benefits plan and an OPED trust.
As Vice Chairman for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question, none heard. Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, resolution number 168, 2022, ratifying and approving the execution and submission of the grant application by the City of Scranton to the U.S. Department of Transportation's Reconnecting Communities Pilot Program for up to $180,000 to be used as a planning grant towards the connectivity plan from South Scranton to downtown Scranton.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chairperson for the Committee of Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question, none heard. Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes. I hereby declare that item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, resolution number 169, 2022, ratifying and approving the execution and submission of the grant application by the City of Scranton to the Department of Community and Economic Development for the COVID-19 ARPA H2O PA Water supply sanitary sewer and stormwater program for up to $20 million to be used towards various stormwater projects.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As a chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7D.
Second.
On the question? None heard. Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted.
7E, previously tabled. Resolution number 158, 2022, approving the intermunicipal transfer of a restaurant liquor license R5037, currently owned by Sanderson Street Tavern, LLC, and located at 655 Sanderson Street, Troop, Lackawanna County, Pennsylvania, 18512, to Carmela's Deli, LLC, located at 106 North Main Avenue, Scranton, Lackawanna County, Pennsylvania, 18504, as required by the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board.
As Vice Chairman for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7E.
Second.
On the question? On the question, I wish Eugene all the luck with expanding his business. He's a great guy, and he's well respected in the West Scranton community. Anybody else?
I agree with what you just said. He's a great guy. It's a great business in West Scranton. Wish him well.
Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7E legally and lawfully adopted.
8th order, 8A, file the council number 9, 2022.
This piece of legislation is the updated zoning ordinance. It has been tabled to allow for additional input and any changes.
8B, file the council number 32, 2022.
This resolution is for permit parking on the 1500 block of Pine Street. It was taken from the table and moved to 7th order for a final vote this evening.
I don't believe it was, Mr. President.
I don't think you know
that
what, I
might
think
be
you're right.
incorrect. I believe that it
remains tabled.
Remains tabled, yes.
All right, you're right. You're correct on that. Sorry about that.
8C, resolution number 158, 2022.
This resolution is the transfer of the restaurant liquor license, and it has been moved to 7th order for a final vote this evening. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I had, Mr. McAndrew, I had one more piece of business.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So in light of the discussion we had earlier this evening, and I know in the paper we did get somewhat of an opinion from the law department. I don't know if it was an off-the-cuff opinion or not, but could we have Mr. Gallagher take a look to see if, I guess the news that came to light, any type of charges like that would preclude anybody from serving on the city zoning board?
Sure, no problem.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? I'll take that motion to adjourn again.
Motion to adjourn.
This meeting's adjourned.